Mm-mm. Good afternoon, world. Or good evening. It's 5 o'clock already. Hope everybody's doing good out there. Hope y'all had a good Sunday, good weekend. Hope your football team won their game this weekend. We're going to have a quick conversation, talk about selling. Give y'all a second to get in here. As you come in, you can tell me your name and location, where you tell me your name and where you are checking in from. Then we're going to get into our conversation and then we'll wrap this up. I don't want to take too much time. I always say that, but then I end up going on. Once I get into a topic, sometimes I just get into it. If y'all don't mind, I just like to give. It's just, I can't help it. I just like to give. So as y'all coming in, shout yourselves out. We're going to get into this. I'm only on IG right now. I'm not live on Facebook. So if you're on my Facebook group, Six Figures and Growing, I'm not live there. But I will be live on Facebook this Tuesday at 8:30 and Thursday at 10:30. I might have those backwards. Let me make sure I got that right. Tuesday, 8:30, Thursday at 10:30. That's my Facebook group. That's where I go live there. That's my business people. So any of y'all business folks join my Facebook group, I'll put a link, or you could just text me and get that link to my Facebook group. I got an email coming out tomorrow for all the lives I'm doing this week on Facebook specifically. I might also co-live on IG simulcast. But anyway, let's get into the topic here real quick. For those of you who don't know me and not familiar with me, my name is Dre Baldwin. I'm a former 9-year pro athlete. I'm author of 33 of these publications you see behind me called books. I've done 4 TED Talks, and my whole brand, Work on Your Game, is all what it is. It's sourced from my background as an athlete, where I took all the strategies and the skills and the applications and the mindset pieces that you need to succeed in sports, and I have translated them. I've created a system that translates the skills that you need in sports into how they can be used in business. That's exactly what I do. So if any of you want to know what I do, I just told you. I took everything you need to succeed in sports and I have translated it over to the business world. And I'm not the first athlete to get into the business world. The difference between me and any other athlete that you have heard of is none of them have my skill of communication. And I say that, I'm not saying that in a cocky way, but you could call it cocky if you want. I say it humbly. None of them have my skill of communication. That's why you see these 33 books behind me. That's why I've done 4 TED Talks. That's why I had a business that I have. There's no athlete who came from the sports world who can communicate what we use in sports and how it translates to business in the way that I do. All right. And that's why, I am who I am. And that's why I will be who I will be. I'm going to get even better. And as I continue to improve. So anyway, with all that said, let's talk about today's topic, which is how to be a true salesperson. Responsibility. What's going on? Good afternoon to you. So we're going to talk about how to be a true salesperson. And this is important because all of life is sales. For those of you who don't know, everything you do in life, you're selling something. All right. If you're trying to get a date, you're selling. If you are trying to get a job, you are selling. You're selling yourself. If you are actually trying to get money, of course you're selling. Most people only think about sales when you think about you give people some kind of product or service and then they give you some money in exchange. Yes, that's selling, but everything else you do is selling as well. When you're trying to persuade or influence a person, you're selling them. If you're at the bar or the club and you're trying to talk the what they call the guy at the door, the bouncer, you're trying to talk the bouncer into letting you pass the velvet rope, you are selling. You're trying to persuade them to do something for you, right? If you're talking to one of your friends and you're like, yo, we should go to this restaurant instead of that restaurant, or we should go see this movie instead of that movie, or we should stay in the house instead of going out, what are you doing? You're trying to influence and persuade another person. So any time in life you're trying to influence and persuade another person, you are selling. So all of life is sales. And that's why your communication skill matters so much. And that's why, as I said, there's no athlete who can do what I do, because I met a lot of athletes. I know a lot of athletes and I see a lot of athletes. None of them have the communication skill that I had to translate what we do in sports over into the business world and into everyday life. And again, that's why I created the position that I've created. But this is not about me. So let's talk about how you can actually be a true salesperson, because just because you make a sale doesn't make you a salesperson. I mean, technically everybody's a salesperson, but many people are not salespeople. And there are people out here who actually will say to you out loud, they'll say out of their mouths that they are not salespeople, or I don't like sales, or I don't want to be a salesperson, or I don't want to be in sales. Any of you who ever says that, you should cancel that statement out. Don't say that. because you are a salesperson. You're either good at it or you're bad at it. So since you have no choice but to be a salesperson, you might as well get good at it. So let's understand three things about selling that everybody needs to accept and you need to start applying. Number one, you have a moral obligation as a salesperson that when you have an offering that can help another person, it is your moral obligation. It is your duty and responsibility to sell it to them. If I know I have something that can help you get better, it is my moral obligation to sell it to you. And I was just at a conference this past week in Orlando, so I was able to get back quick. And one of the things that I was looking for, it was a couple specific things I was looking for at this event. Number one, I just wanted to meet certain people, just not certain people, but just meet more people, see who was there, just because I know the kind of people to get attracted to this event, and it's high quality individuals. So I just wanted to meet whoever I was going to meet, and I did that. So check that box. Another thing was I was just looking for other people who may be in a similar space to mine, because everybody there is a salesperson, and everybody there is unabashedly a salesperson, meaning they have no shame about being a salesperson because they understand the same thing I just explained to you. I want to know what strategies and techniques are some of these people using that I might be able to steal and use myself to do better in my own business so I can serve and help more people at a higher level. And I found a couple things that I'm not going to tell you about, but I will be implementing them that I could use in my business because as I understand my moral obligation to help people. And sometimes here's one of the challenges that I had, and I still have actually, that actually brings me to events like the one that I just went to, is that sometimes I come across a person who wants my help and I want to help them. But the challenge is the gap between how much they can afford to invest in my help and how much I require for them to invest in my help. There's a big gap between the two. In other words, they can't afford what I'm selling. So I was trying to figure out, or how do people do this? Is there a way to bridge this gap? And I started to find some ways from some smart individuals, some high level professional people who invest in themselves the same way that I invest in myself. That they have some techniques that I could not even borrow, but use. I mean, it's not like they made them up, but they're using some stuff that I thought to myself, you know what, I can do that. I can use that too. So some techniques that I can apply in my own business that will allow me to serve people that before last week, I just figured I wouldn't be able to serve these people. But now I know that I will be able to serve them because I have some better techniques. So this is helping me fulfill my moral obligation to help the people who I'm called to serve. And there's a lot of people I'm called to serve because I know I'm putting the game out there and giving it to the people who want it. So understand that it is not your job to just hope and pray and wait that people come across you and just wave their credit cards or their wallets at you. It's your job to go find the people who you're called to serve and actually serve them at the highest level and charge them for it. And charge them for it. And charge them for it. Okay, so I'm making sure you understand that money is a part of this equation. Just giving people value, but not getting any value in exchange for yourself, that's bad business. That's a bad transaction. Now, right now, I'm not charging you for this IG Live, but one of the reasons why I do these, like an IG or YouTube, or put out my masterclass every single day in the podcasting apps, no reason that I do that is like a sample. I'm giving you a sample of showing you, look, if my game is at this level when it's for free, imagine what I'm going to give you when you pay. I can tell you that up front. I'm not, there's no secret about it. Like the free stuff, my free stuff is better than a whole bunch of people's paid stuff. I'll tell you that up front, and I'll say it in front of them. All right, that's what I do. And that's my way of showing you, all right, my value is here. So if you ever need somebody who can help you in this lane of what you hear me talking about, you have no other options. You shouldn't even see anybody else as an option because my free stuff is on the level that is on. Like if you just took everything from my masterclass, that's on the podcasting app, is better than most people's paid courses, their coaching programs, their speaking gigs, their TED Talks, their books, all that stuff. And again, I'll tell you that up front. You look at the numbers from my masterclass, we're doing so far this year. I'll tell you what we've done. Let me just tell you what we've done in the last 12 months, just on my masterclass. So any of you who listen to the podcast, you should be listening to mine. It's called Work on Your Game. Let me tell you what our show has done just in the last 12 months. 2,372,938 downloads in the last 12 months. You see it right there. 214% increase. That's more than double since the last time. Anyway, I'm not telling you that to impress you. Actually, I am trying to impress you, but to impress upon you that I've been giving game for a long time because of my obligation to give game to the people who actually need it. And when people come and they want that game, you charge them for it, they pay. When people pay, they pay attention. It means they're going to get more out of what you give them. You give them what they need. You get what you need, and everybody wins. That's a win-win situation. Everybody rises up. Everybody levels up all at the same time. So number one is your moral obligation to sell. When you can help somebody, it's your moral obligation to sell it to them. And if you're a hesitant salesperson, get your mind right around the fact that what you have is worth something and you need to sell it. Not give it away. You need to sell it. Number two, we're talking about selling true salesperson principles. Number two, sell something that you believe in and that you believe will help the people who you sell it to. Never sell something to somebody that you don't think is actually going to help them. Sell something to people who you believe is actually going to help them. This is one of the challenges of being an entrepreneur, is that you kind of get to choose your customers. You get to choose your prospects. And then you have to discern whether this person should be buying what you're selling or not. Because if you're a really good salesperson, you may have the ability to sell something to somebody that they don't really need, or that they can't even afford, or that is not really for them specifically, but you might be able to sell it to them anyway, just because you want to get a dollar. One of the benefits of working at a job, for example, is that the company, they put a system in place to where the only people you talk to are people who are just laid in front of you. All you got to do is sell them, because they already are pre-qualified to buy from you. So for example, when I used to work at a gym, anybody who came into the gym and wanted to look at the gym, they're already pre-qualified that they know they want a gym membership. So all I had to do was sell them a membership. I didn't have to figure out, all right, does this person really need a gym membership? We know they needed one because they already came into the gym, and it's not my company. I'm just working there. I'm on commission. So my job literally is to sell every single person I get put in front of. Whereas you as an entrepreneur, you have to make judgment calls as to whether you should sell everybody. I get on calls sometimes with people who say they're interested in being coached by me, and I'll tell them right there on the call, listen, I'm not even going to make you an offer of getting coached by me because you're not ready for what I'm offering. What I'm offering, this is not for you right now. Maybe you can come back in 6 months. Maybe you can come back in a year. Maybe you shouldn't come back at all. Sometimes people try to schedule a call with me and I cancel the call. Because I'm like, this person is just, I look at what they wrote in their application. I'm like, this person is just not, this is not the right type of person. I had to make that judgment call as an entrepreneur. But in a job, you don't have to make that call. The company does that for you. All you got to do is just close the people that they line up in front of you. So it's a little bit easier. But this is why you don't get all the money when you work at a job. You get some of the money. The company gets the rest of the money. But as an entrepreneur, you get all the money. Or at least you get control of the money. You still got to divvy it out and pay Uncle Sam and all that. But you get my point. So sell something that you actually believe in, and something that you believe will help the people who you are selling it to. This is part of your moral obligation. It's not just sell to anybody randomly. It's sell to people who you believe you can actually help. So when you believe in what you sell and you have the skill that I'm going to mention in a moment, you don't necessarily need a script. Some salespeople say, well, I don't want to go into selling and have conversations about selling or make cold calls because I don't have a script. I need to know exactly what I'm going to say. When you believe in what you're selling, you don't even have to have a script, because your belief in what you're doing, that comes across. That unspoken language, that nonverbal communication is actually what sells people. And people buy how you say things more than they buy what you say. A lot of people like to focus on the script. Let me make sure I got the exact words and how I'm going to say things, when what you really need to be focusing on is how you are saying stuff and your energy when you're saying it. That's what people are really reading. They might not be able to explain that and they can't articulate it, but most of communication is nonverbal. Depending on who you ask, is anywhere between 60% and 90% of communication is nonverbal. It is not what you say. It's how you say it. It's the energy. It's the belief. It's, do people believe that you believe what you're saying? That's how they decide whether they're actually going to buy from you or not. It is not the actual words. So as they say, facts tell and stories sell. And the story is how you are coming across. Facts are the actual words that you say. That's the logic. That's the rational part. Most people don't make decisions rationally. We make decisions emotionally, and then we come up with a rational justification for our decisions to make it seem like we thought about it, when most of the time we actually didn't. And this is all human psychology. So if you haven't read Robert Cialdini's books on influence, you should read those. Look them up. And now let's move on to point number 3. We are talking here how to be a true salesperson. Here's the key skill. If you want to succeed in, we can forget about selling, just in all of life, whether you're in business, whether you're an athlete, whether you're, somebody says something in the comments about a girl. If you want to get good at anything in life that involves other human beings, I don't care what it is, number one skill you need is a skill of communication. Communication skill. Your ability to take what is in your head and get it out of you to another person so that they can understand it. Now that can be done through speaking. It can be done through writing. You can do it when you're talking to people one-on-one. You can do it talking to a group of people. We call that one-to-many, or public speaking, or mass communication. You could do it through what I'm doing right now, talking to a device, but there's a bunch of people who can see this. So if I take this recording and I put it on my IG, or I put it on YouTube or on Facebook, a whole bunch of other people can see it. even though I'm not talking directly to them at the moment. But this is all part of your mass communication. But if you don't have the skill of communication, then you can't do this. And your ability to communicate, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you must be great at communication because you're always selling. Everything you do, you're selling somebody on something. You have to sell your customers on buying into you and your clients on staying with you. You got to sell your staff because if you get people to work for you, you got to sell them on what you're doing so that they believe, hey, is this company even going to be around? So that actually, is this person actually going to be able to pay me every 2 weeks? Are we going to make any money? They got to believe that. You have to sell them on that. And what they're buying is not the job. They're buying you because you're an entrepreneur. You're the boss. So what they're buying is you. So all of this is part of your communication skill. So all of you who are listening to this, never ever stop working on your skill of communication. I'm always working on my communication skills. So for example, like I said, I was just at a conference and there was a bunch of speakers. It's probably 20, 30 people spoke at this conference I was just at. It was a whole week event. And some of the speakers were good and some of them were not. And even the bad speakers, when a bad speaker was speaking or somebody who had a speech, maybe they were a good speaker, but their content was whack. And if you put 20, 30 speakers on the stage, there are going to be some whack speakers. It just happens. In my opinion, this is just from my perspective. I would be listening to them and I wouldn't be looking at them and trashing them in my mind. I'd be thinking to myself, okay, I don't think this person's presentation is that good, but they are on the stage, but they have created, some level of success. They are making some sales. They do have clients and customers. Let me figure out what I try to figure out is, all right, what are they doing that's actually working? Because even though I don't think their speech is that good, something they're doing is good because there's somebody who's giving them money. So what are they doing that's working? That's what I try to figure out. That's the way that I kind of look at things. I'm not looking at a speaker just for the content of their material because that's not really what sells anyway. I did a reel on that yesterday. So that's not really what people are buying when they buy into your stuff. They're not buying your, the genius of your words, even though our egos will like us to think that. That's not what anybody's buying. What people are buying is that they believe in you. And there's something about the way you presented yourself that makes them want to follow your lead. And all of us have that, and there are 8 billion people on the planet. So I might have 100 people who are really in on me, but those 100 people would never like anything you say, and vice versa. You got people in your world who would listen to me and be like, I don't like anything Dre said, but they love everything you said. So it's somebody for everybody, and sometimes there's some overlap, but that's how I look at people. Anytime I see somebody doing something in business and it's working, they're making some sales, I'm looking and trying to figure out, okay, what about what they're doing is working, even if I think they're not good, because I might not be their customer, right? I didn't buy from them, so it doesn't matter what I think. What matters is what their buyers think, their customers think, and what is it that they're doing is getting their customers to say yes, pull out their credit cards and pay them money. Because if there may be one thing out of it, they might be doing 100 things, but if there's 2 or 3 things I could take out of that 100 that I can take and use in my business that helps me make some more sales, then that's great, right? So this is why you got to get good at asking the right question. See, it's not just about you comparing yourself to everybody else because that doesn't even matter. Who cares what I think? Like I told you, there's some speakers I thought were whack. I'm not going to tell you who they were because it doesn't matter what I think. I'm not their customers, but they do have customers. You get it? So their customers, their opinion is what matters when you're in business. Is who's paying the money? That's what matters. It's not what the audience thinks or social media thinks or somebody in the comments. I'm basically a commentator. Doesn't matter what I think. It matters what the salespeople think or the buyers think to the salesperson. So this is why you got to sharpen your communication skills so that you know exactly who your audience is, what exactly they want from you, what about you is actually drawing them in and keeping them in your audience and then giving it to them over and over and over again. That's all part of communication. Remember something, folks. Communication is not just what you say. Communication is not just what I say in these lives or what I write down in a book. Communication is also me listening, hearing, reading, taking in, observing, noticing what's not being said. All of that's part of communication. So when people hear the word communication, they usually think about, talking and saying words and writing books and all that stuff. But communication also goes the other direction. Okay. Communication is speaking and listening, giving and receiving. So sharpen your skill of doing both. That's how you become a good salesperson. The best salespeople out there, anybody listening to this who's a salesperson, especially those of you who sell like high ticket items, let's say things that cost like something that somebody might have to think about before they buy it. They can't just buy it on a whim. Like I can sell you a book for, just pay the shipping $9. You might do that without thinking about it, right? But if I try to sell you a ticket to an event that costs $1,000, and now you got to buy the $1,000 ticket, you got to fly to the event, you got to take time away, you got to make sure your kids taken care of, you got to be away from your family, you got to schedule all that, you got to get a hotel room. Now you got to think about that, right? If I'm making that kind of sale, those kind of sales require, if I'm having a conversation with you first, or I'm selling you coaching or something that costs $10, $20, $30,000, My ability to listen is more important than what I say, because I got to listen to what you say, because that's really going to tell me how I need to sell you. It's not just me just dazzling you with some amazing presentation of articulateness. It's me being able to listen to the person who I'm talking to. If they feel heard and listened to, they will probably do what I want them to do. It's listening, not talking. The best salespeople don't have these dazzling presentations where they're just wowing you with their words. They are actually listening more than they're talking. And then they make the sale. Why? Because most people don't listen. All right. This is the opportunity, folks. The opportunity in life is always in the opposites. So you look at what most people do the opposite of that, and that's where the opportunity is at, because you have very little competition and you're doing something that most people don't do, which means you're going to stand out amongst the crowd. But I could go on and on this, so I'm not going to do that today. I probably will sometime in the future. But that's the third thing, is sharpening your communication skills. You got to fill in the knowledge gaps that your prospects are sure to have. And when you can do that, then they'll believe that you're an expert, you know your stuff, and they'll be willing to buy from you rather. Point number 4. I thought I had 3 points. I got 4. Here's the 4th point. This is how to be a true salesperson. Number 4 is know your shit. SHIT. Know your shit. What does that mean? You want to be a salesperson, you got to have knowledge and information about your space, about your area, about your area of expertise, whatever you're selling. If you work in the clothing industry and somebody walks into your store, you should be able to look at them, size them up, and get a feel for, oh, you know what kind of shoes they're wearing, what kind of handbag is that, what kind of suit are they wearing, what's the quality of it. You should be able to look at it and have at least a feel for it, because that's your industry. You're supposed to know what's going on in that space. If somebody comes to me talking about books, I should have a good idea of everything that they talk about, because I'm in the book world, especially if I'm trying to sell them something related to a book. I should know my industry. So whatever industry you're going to be in, know your stuff. I told this story on my podcast. I walked into a suit store and I was dressed like this. I didn't have a suit on. Y'all know, if y'all watch my IG, you know I got a suit on all the time. But this day I didn't have a suit on, and these people were looking at me. I felt like they sized me up like he's not going to buy anything because I didn't have a suit on. None of them tried to sell me anything. If one of them had tried to sell me something, guess what would have happened? I probably would have bought a suit that day. These dumbasses didn't try to sell me anything because they sized me up. They didn't know the industry, because if they had looked at me, they could have assumed a few things. First of all, what neighborhood are we in? All right, this neighborhood is not cheap. All right, if this guy lives in this neighborhood, he probably spends money on stuff. Okay, so guess what else he'll spend money on? Maybe he'll spend money on a suit. They would have looked at my feet, especially since they're in the clothing industry. I had some retro Jordans on. You know how much retro Jordans cost? About the same amount as a suit. So if they had looked at my feet and noticed what I was wearing, they would have said, all right, if he'll spend that much money on some sneakers, he could spend that same amount of money on a suit, which I will and have. But none of them was a salesperson. They didn't know their shit, and they didn't try to sell me anything. Somebody would have just noticed that. They would have said, all right, this dude got on those. All right, he'll buy a suit. All right, the same amount of money. If there was a salesperson in there. There was 10 workers in there. None of them was a salesperson. And as a matter of fact, there was a guy who walked up to me when I came in the store. He shook my hand, started talking to me because he remembered me from YouTube, basketball days. He was like, Dre, I used to watch you on YouTube and do your dribbling drills and stuff like that. He was like, it's so cool to meet you, all that, right? And he works there. He works in the suit store. I'm shaking his hand, talking to him for a couple minutes. He said, hey, man, it was good to meet you. And he turns around and walks away. He didn't even try to sell me anything. I'm standing in his job in a suit store, and he told me how he watched me on YouTube and didn't even try to sell me a suit. What sense does that make? Now, shout out to him. He was a good guy. He was a nice guy, very polite, cool, and all that, friendly. But dude, ain't you at work? Aren't you on commission? Don't you make money for selling suits? Sell me a suit. Why am I in the suit store if I wasn't interested in buying a suit? I mean, wouldn't you just assume? But anyway, if you want to be a true salesperson, you got to know your shit. This guy, he was a nice guy, but if he's watching this, you are not a true salesperson. You can become one, but you are not, because you blew a golden opportunity to make some money that day. Because I would have bought something if you would have tried to sell it to me, but he didn't. So this is, again, hopefully y'all who are listening to this, y'all don't make this mistake. And the last one, sharpen your sword. Sharpening your sword means always get new information, always keep investing in yourself, keep reading books, listening to podcasts, watching videos, subscribe to somebody's email newsletter, go to an event, get knowledge from people who know more than you, whether that's a mentor at work, whether you sign up for somebody's course, you hire yourself a coach, you go join some kind of program, do something to continue sharpening your sword so that you're always getting smarter and you're always getting better at what you do. The process of learning and knowledge and getting better never ends. There was a study that showed, and this is still true, that when people leave school, it doesn't matter what level, high school, college, grad school, whatever, that after people leave school, they never read another book voluntarily for the rest of their lives. Isn't that crazy? So somebody will graduate from high school at 18. They die when they're 78. So for that 60 years, they didn't read another book on purpose. 60 years. When somebody graduates college, they're 22. They die at 60. So for that, how many years is that? 38 years. They never read another book voluntarily for, at least for the purpose of learning. They don't read another book voluntarily ever again in life because they're not sharpening the sword. And I believe this was Stephen Covey. He talked about sharpening the sword in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You're always sharpening the sword. In other words, making yourself better. Remember something, folks. In life, you are either getting better or you're getting worse. You are building or you're destroying. There is no such thing as neutral in the universe. There is no neutral. You are either improving or you are getting worse. You are either going forward or you're going backward. You cannot stand still and say that you're being neutral. If you're standing still, the world is moving forward, which means by default, you are going backwards. All right. You stand still on a moving treadmill. What happens? All right. That's what happens when you think that you're doing something neutral. You are either sharpening your sword or your sword is getting dull. One or the other. As the old saying goes, if you have an hour to chop down a tree, you spend 45 minutes sharpening the axe, right? Then you spend 15 minutes chopping down the tree. So with all that said, let me recap these 5 points. If somebody got a question, go ahead and post it in the comments right now. If there's a question, a good one, then I'll respond to it. How to be a true salesperson. Number one, understand your moral obligation, which is to sell people something that can actually help them. It is your duty. It is your responsibility. Number two, sell something that you believe in and that you believe will help the people who you are selling to. Don't sell people stuff they don't need and don't want. Number three, sharpen your communication skills. This is the key skill for life, let alone in sales. You cannot communicate, which includes not only speaking, but also listening. Communication that goes both directions. You got to have the ability to take in and the ability to share. Number four, know your shit. Know the business that you're in, know the industry that you're in. You work in the clothing industry and somebody walks in your store, you should size them up and you should tell, like, how much is that handbag? How much is that coat? What kind of shoes they got on? What's the quality of that suit he's wearing? You should know that because you're in the clothing industry. You should know if you're in that space. Know the information about where you're working. And number five, sharpen your sword. Always be getting better. Always be improving. Always be getting yourself to a higher level in what you're doing. Most people, when they graduate school, they never read another book for the purposes of educating themselves ever again. So the opportunity is where, everybody? And the opposites, doing the opposite of what everybody else does. Most people don't invest in themselves. Most people don't learn. Most people don't try to get better intentionally. So the opportunity is in doing the opposite of that. All right. So whatever most people do the other thing. Okay. Earl Nightingale said this. You walk into a place and you don't know what to do. Look around at what everybody else is doing and do the opposite of that. And there's your opportunity right there. Because most people by definition are average. If you don't want to be average, just look at everybody else. They're average and don't do that. All right, everybody got it? All right, I just gave you a formula for success, right? If you just follow that, you got everything you need. So anybody got a question, go ahead and post it in the comments. I'll take a question or two and I'll wrap this up. I will be going live again on Tuesday. Again, I said Tuesday, 8:30, Thursday, 10:30. I'll be live in my Facebook group. It's called 6 Figures and Growing. Also, I'll be simulcasting it with IG. Devin Scott was good, my man. So I don't see any questions. So I think we're going to wrap this up. Daberdeen was good. Somebody asked me a question earlier. He said, Z Water Reminder. Appreciate you. Change your mindset. You're more accountable. That's what's up. Keep doing it. Whatever you've been doing, keep doing it. And then invest in yourself so you can take yourself to a higher level. Nick says, how do I approach a girl? Get my book called 25 Conversation Starters. Nick Simon, if you're watching this. I got a book called 25 Conversation Starters. Let me show you that book. And it will show you how to do that. That's this book right here. So any of you want to get good at small talking, or you go to an event. I told you I was at an event and you're just trying to figure out, how do I strike up a conversation with a person? You don't know how to talk to people. Read this book right here. It will tell you how to do it. It's part of the leadership bundle. You can get this when you go to thirddaybook.com. You get that book right there. The third or fourth page in the funnel, we're going to offer you this. It's 3 books in this bundle. This 25 Reasons to Quit Worrying and 55 Daily People Skills. We call this the leadership bundle. All 3 books for $20. So there you go right there. That's 25 conversation starters. Question was, Devin said, what's my biggest takeaway from FHL 2022? That was the event that I just went to. I was talking about that earlier. Really just looking to see how people are doing what they're doing, the structure and strategy of what people are doing, and seeing what I could steal from somebody. I'm always looking to steal something. Let me steal a little piece. Same way I play ball. I didn't try to play like anybody. I would just take little pieces. Like Kobe did this move, let me take that. Dwayne Wade did that. Shaq did this. Just take little pieces. So I was just always looking for little pieces. That's all I do. Just steal little pieces from people. and see how I can use it. All right. So anybody else got a question? I don't see any other questions. So those of you who don't got your copy of my book, The Third Day, get it at the link. The link is thirddaybook.com. Actually, my daily motivation, though, you can get that at that number right there, 305-384-6894. I'll be doing 2 more lives again this week, Tuesday and Thursday. Those times are posted in my Facebook group. I'll put a link to that and my story after this is over. It is 5:30. I need to get some sleep. I have not slept in like a week. I haven't gotten a full night of sleep in like a week. So I'm going to get some sleep. I'm going to eat. I'm going to eat dinner. I'm going to take a quick walk. And yeah, that's it for me. It's a wrap from here in Miami. I am back home. We are back in business. I might post another reel later on tonight. And that is that, folks. All right, everybody. I appreciate your time and attention. I will be back on. Y'all know what I do. Just follow my story. Y'all see everything that's going on. Get my daily motivation text at that number. If you are not in my text list, the only reason you wouldn't be in my text list is if you don't got a phone. And all y'all watching this, so you got a phone, text me at that number right there. So you're getting my daily motivation. And you can actually text with me because I do respond to my messages. All right, everybody. Have a great, what's today? Sunday? Oh, yeah. Today is the 25th. Start writing out your goals for next week. Next month, rather. Next month, October is a week away. Start writing out your goals for next month. You write your goals every month, not once a year, every month. And you'd be looking at them every day or at least every week. So start writing out your goals for the month of October. All right. And if you need help with that, get this book right here called The Mental Workbook. You get that at workonmygame.com/workbook. This book right here will help you write out your goals. All right, everybody. Have a good Sunday. We out of here.